Back in October, I challenged myself to create alternative posters for 3 blockbuster movies. And well, I'm hungry to make more.
You sure about that?
So in this video, I'm choosing 3 more epic movies and tossing them into the Photoshop cooking pot to see what I can come up with. My first movie pick is Jaws. For me, Jaws is the perfect movie to create a poster for because of the variety of story elements to work with, the setting, characters, plot, and of course, a big shark.
Rawr! What's that?
It's bigger, Jaws!
Okay, we're going to kick things off with this nice simple image of an ocean. We'll just remove that background. And then I'm just going to reduce some of the blues so that water doesn't look quite so inviting. Next, I've got this image of some stormy clouds which will form the base for our sky. We can use the remove tool to get rid of this windmill and these tiny wind turbines way in the back. Nice. Let's make the water a little bit darker, which should in turn make things feel a bit more ominous. Next up, I found this RC boat of the Orca.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
We'll place that about here, and then we'll just remove some of the hull so it looks like it's submerged in the sea. We'll fix those levels, and then use a selective color adjustment layer to better match the colors in the sea. Now, I don't want the boat to appear stationary, so we're going to add some waves and wakes. So I can borrow those from this image here. We'll cut out what we don't want using the lasso tool, match the lighting and colors to the scene, then we'll use a soft round brush to conceal this bottom part, and then a more textured brush to remove some of this top section. We'll pull the highlights from this image to form the wake behind our boat. And now hopefully it looks like it's chugging along the water. Interesting tidbit, this wasn't my first attempt. I actually started work on a poster only to discover later that the talented artist Andy Fairhurst had already created something similar. Safe to say it would take some mighty chops to compete with Andy's Jaws poster. It definitely deserves a Wilson wow.
Wow.
Okay, plain sailing so far, but here's where things get a bit more conceptual and a lot more tricky. The idea is to have a giant shark head bursting out of the water, almost like it's going to swallow up our fishing boat. However, we're going to build this shark using layers of cloud. So first up, I'm building the general shape for the head, and then I'll try using these brighter clouds which will form the bottom of the mouth and maybe hint at some teeth. We'll just remove some of the blue sky. And then just warp that into position. We'll also make those a little bit darker. Got a little bit lucky with this one. These jagged looking clouds will be perfect for the top section of the mouth. We're just going to alter those colors, mask away what we don't want, and then warp it into position. And then I'm going to pull from various thunderstorm cloud formations just to create some contours that are going to help emphasize the shape of a shark's head. I'd say it's slowly starting to take shape. I think it needs some slightly more pronounced looking clouds at the bottom. Just going to darken those up. And I wonder if we can add just a hint of a sun which will act as the shark's eye. We want the shark to be obvious enough that you don't miss it, but at the same time when you break it down, the layers of cloud look somewhat plausible and realistic. It's definitely going to be a tricky balance, but we'll have a go. Hopefully you can start to make out the shape by now. Let's add in a few seagulls. We'll use select subject and then tidy up those selections with the lasso tool. We'll scale those down and place them above our boat. We'll paint in a little bit of shadow given off by the boat and a little bit of sea mist and haze just to help separate the boat from the background. Not too far off now, let's get this one across the finish line. So here's my alternative Jaws poster. There's aspects I really like, such as the composition and atmosphere, although I'm not totally convinced I executed the concept of the shark in the clouds as well as I could have, but it's pretty close. Next up, we're getting back to the bare necessities of life by crafting a poster for the classic movie, The Jungle Book. And to bring this poster to life, I'll be using the sponsor of today's video, Kittle. Kittle is a one-stop shop design software for beginners, equipped with everything you need to create your own product. With a massive library of fonts, illustrations, premium photos, and AI tools, it's perfect for digital printables, branding, or improving your social media designs. If you need inspiration to get started, Kittle provides advanced templates crafted by top top designers easily customize with just a few clicks. As for me, I'll be drawing inspiration from this Welcome to Endor template I found to create my Jungle Book poster. In the Kittle browser-based editor, we'll start by choosing the size of our poster, then fill in the canvas with this purpley color. We need something to frame the backdrop, so let's open up the Elements section and search for mountains. Ooh, I like this one. Let's reposition it and adjust the colors. Then we'll duplicate it and resize to fine-tune the height and position. Super. Back into Elements, and this time we'll add in some abstract shapes to serve as our mid and foreground hills. We'll enlarge these shapes and find a good position. Also use a darker shade to help create contrast between the layers. We need lots of trees, and fortunately Kittle has its own forest of vector tree elements. We can grab these, resize and group them together, placing some in the midground and others in the foreground. Now we've got a cool looking layered landscape. We need a rocky hill slope in the foreground. To achieve this easily, we'll open up the photo section and find a jagged mountain peak. This one looks good. Let's use the image tools and the AI background remover. Yeah, this has to be one of the cleanest background removers I've used. Since we don't want the details, we'll use the image vectorizer. It's like the Terminator of photos. Now that we have a vector shape, we can change its color. Very cool. Now, I want to add a character to our scene. Since this is the Jungle Book and Mowgli has a very distinct silhouette, I need to upload my own image. Kittle allows you to upload and use your own images in your designs, and if you don't have the image you're looking for, you can use Kittle AI to create one with a variety of styles to help you find what you're looking for. We'll just add in a few more elements like some grass, a few birds, clouds, and this mysterious looking moon. This is looking pretty sweet, but it's still a little flat, but Kittle has just the thing we need to take it to the next level. This howling wolf in Kittle's mask library is perfect for creating that double exposure effect. Just drop in the landscape we've created and resize it. Whoa, and look at that. It's almost like I planned it or something. We'll quickly add a title using Kittle's intuitive fonts library, searching for something bookish that also gives off a bit of a jungle vibe. This one will do nicely. Modify some shapes to underline it, and to bring it home, we'll use one of my favorite things in Kittle, its library of textures. Let's pick a nice paper texture to help give the poster some visual flair. I'll also add this old vintage paper. Now that the poster is ready, let's create a custom poster mockup and see how it looks hanging on the wall. And Kittle has loads of these pre-made mockups that you can use for your designs. Hey, that looks pretty sweet. Kittle is an incredible browser-based editor, ideal for both beginners and seasoned designers alike. I've been genuinely impressed with how intuitive and easy it is to pick up. You can try out Kittle today completely free with my link down below, and use the code PhaseRunner to get 50% off your first month of Pro. Now, for this poster, we're going to tackle Dune Part 2. I actually made some fan art for the first film, but this was before any information was released, so it's not the best. However, I do like the sense of scale and action, so I think we'll go in a similar direction for this piece too. We'll start by laying down some color on the canvas and then drop in this image of some smoke, and this will give us a nice layer of texture and the appearance of sand being kicked up into the atmosphere. Next, I love this scene from the trailer, so we're going to cut these characters out using the pen tool, and we'll place them somewhere down here in the bottom third in the foreground. And then I'll use the smudge tool to get rid of these hard edges and soften them up with a soft round brush. Now, I need a little bit more texture to act as the skin of these giant worms, and on closer inspection, I realize it pretty much just looks like rocks and canyons. So I found some images like this, and I think this is going to be perfect for extending the texture of the skin where we need it. We'll just get that into position, play with the exposure properties, and then I'll use a mask to conceal sections in shadow. Ooh, some more nice potential worm skin here. Just gonna warp that, remove a little bit more of the red, and soften those edges. Next, I've got this image of some flour, which will create a nice wind-blown sand effect. I'll just use the color range tool to pick those highlights, and then we'll stretch those and get them into position. These will also help add a nice sense of movement and speed. Just change the color, and I'll set that to linear dodge. Nice. And we'll do a similar thing with this image on the side of the worm, just stretching it, and soften those edges. Okay, the dude at the front needs some reins. Nope. Okay. Nah. Come on. Yes, that's the one. Okay, that's the first worm pretty much in position. We're going to use the same technique to create two more worms, each worm gradually getting further away in the distance. There's already a nice natural position in the smoke for this second one. And for the last one, we'll put that in the top third. Also use the warp tool to give it a little bit of an arch. Something like this. And we'll plop that one about here. And then I'm just going to make some changes to the colors and the lighting so that this one appears further away in the distance. Okay, I think that'll do. Right, we need some more characters to ride these worms. And this is sometimes where you have to get a little bit creative when searching for stock assets. Given the specific types of pose that I need, I might have to think outside the box a little and search for things like rock climbing and tug-of-war images. But this should hopefully give me the types of poses that I'm after. This guy will do nicely for the front of our second worm. I'll use the puppet warp tool just to alter the pose slightly. That'll do. And we'll create more of a silhouette for this one. Okay, that's a good start. Let's get a few more characters in there. Got a nice variety to work with. This is basically just trial and error, finding the best position for each pose. Some will work and some we'll probably have to get rid of. Okay, I think I'll stick with these three. Now we just need to blend them into the scene as we did with the first character. Gradually building up some detail and texture, adding a few highlights. Make them a bit smaller. And I think I'll use the pen tool to create the reins this time. Let's duplicate that. Then a soft round brush to erase the ends. Okay, we've got the last guy which we're going to place up on our final worm. I think we'll keep this guy on his own, possibly represents Paul. A little bit of haze. And we'll get those reins in there again. We definitely need to add a giant sun. I think just behind the final worm will be the perfect position, giving the overall scene that added spice.
Spice. He knows about the spice.
We'll set that layer to lighten and just decrease the saturation slightly. Awesome, that's all of our key elements in place. Now we're just going to build up those layers of texture and detail. To do this, I'll simply be using various images of smoke and sand textures. And then just those overall lighting and color adjustments to bring the image home. Things always go a lot smoother when you have a nice clear idea in mind, and that was certainly the case with this one. A nice bit of action. The trickiest part was making sure the image had enough distinction between the foreground and background elements. It would have been easy to end up with a very noisy, difficult to read image because of all the sand and dust textures at play, but hopefully that's not the case here. Want to see what happens when you create a crossover movie poster for two of the biggest franchises? Watch here to find out.